any ground beef we've had, whether it be conventional or grass-fed beef, the grass-fed bison by us is just her number one choice. She's like, this is so good. So if you ever get a chance to try some, you should.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
I was just asked the other day, like, if I ended up moving out to South Dakota and, like, you know, in the future, if you buy land in South Dakota, would you ever, like, raise bison? And I'm just like, so, like, I'm about 110 pounds, you know, like, I'm okay handling cows. They're only, like, 1,200 pounds. Like, do you know how big bison are? And, like, they have
What's
horns.
another 1,000 pounds? What's the difference? You're going to get run over and killed anyways. This is the Farm Hop Life Podcast, a traveling homestead family. I'm Matt DeRozier. Today, my guest is Madi Oskey of Madi's apartment in Minneapolis, Minnesota. She and her dog grow veggies, herbs, and fruit on her apartment balcony. That's pretty cool. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Yeah. So, right up front, who grows better tomatoes, you or your dog?
He actually, so he's a herding dog, and I like to think that he will check on the plants for me. Whenever we have to go and water them in the morning, he sniffs them, the pots, and every individual one, and I don't think they grow as well without him, you know, being a shepherd and watching over them.
There might actually be something to that. I don't know why this came to mind right away, but somebody said something about, like, one time, you know, somebody would, like, sit in their, like, a chair and, like, read a book to their garden or whatever. And I don't know, it's probably, like, just anecdotal evidence from, like, something they tried to make something about it, like exhaling something about carbon dioxide, something onto the plants. And so I don't know, it makes for a good story, I guess. But yeah. So your dog is just giving extra carbon dioxide or whatever that thing is that plants absorb that help us out a lot. You'd think I'd know, but I don't. So on your apartment balcony. So that's pretty cool. That must not be. So how many pots do you have, first of all? Like, let's start there. Like, and what are you, like, you know, tomatoes and peppers kind of gal?
Yeah, so when I moved here in 2020, my aunt is a really big gardener. She, like, built her own greenhouse and everything. She, like, her parting gift was a basil plant and a tomato plant. So I started off with 2 pots my first year, and I just had, you know, tomato and basil, you know, the perfect pair. And then last year I got 2 more pots, so I have 4 now. And that's where I've been. Last year I grew tomato, rosemary, basil, lettuce, and I think there's another herb. And this year I actually have not planted yet, just because I might be moving soon, so I didn't want to, you know, stress out my plants or anything. Sure. Because last year I don't want to, but I feel like I need to confess that I did neglect my plants part of the summer last year. I left for 10 days and I didn't water them end of May while I was on a trip with my family. But they survived. Nice. And they were doing well. So I think it might be because they get less sun exposure. Just where my apartment's located, they don't get a lot of direct sunlight. So. And I use the aqua globes. Those are helpful. Oh,
nice. Yeah, those, we've all been there, neglecting plants. Like, oh, shoot, you know, forgot to water them. Like, when we started our seeds this year, I think we didn't water them for, like, another, like, week or 2 after the initial seeding. And we're like, my wife and I are like, I thought you were watering them. So that's how that came to be. They're still here. That's why this office is so hot. So your aunt is a big gardener. Did she have any hand in how you got started gardening?
I think she did partly, and then also both my grandmothers had large gardens. They both were living out in the country. My mom's mom, she probably had, I want to say, a fourth of an acre of a garden, and it was huge. And I just remember spending a lot of time helping her pick plants and just eating peas and carrots out of the garden. My dad's mom, we would go there annually to pick strawberries and help make jam
Nice.
every year, every summer. So that obviously transferred down to my aunt and then my mom as well.
So what motivates you to grow your own food? I mean, even in an apartment. I mean, I know the plants were gifted to you, and you could have just been like, whatever. If they die at the end of the year, I don't have to keep this going. Why do you do it?
I think it's so I'm just not as dependent to go to the grocery store. I can just go outside, pick some lettuce, tomatoes, basically have half a salad right there. So I just kind of like being independent, and it just tastes a little different. And yeah, definitely. And I think it's a really strong skill to have, to be able to grow your own food.
Absolutely. You should maybe at your next apartment, you should also have a goat on your balcony, so you could get like some goat. There's an idea.
Yeah, we'll see if the apartment allows goats.
I mean, you could say, well, I don't know if the emotional support thing goes over well anymore, but it'd be like, it checks to see if I have seizures or something. Like, actually, I don't know. Or like I need its special goat milk for my gut health or something.
Yes.
I have some rare disease, I guess, or condition. Yeah, you don't want to use disease. That sounds awful.
Yeah, probably not.
So since you're kind of limited in what you can do you remember what kind of things your mom, your aunt, and your grandmas had as far as like methods or like techniques? Was it just a garden, like no chickens, no livestock of any kind, or like what? You remember kind of what? Was it just like row crops? Was it square foot gardening? Was it anything like that?
I think it was kind of just, they learned it from their mothers. It was definitely just nothing special. I remember my mom's mom, she just knew what she was doing, and it was kind of amazing. She had just like been doing it for so long, and she was like out gardening until like the very end. And my dad's mom, I think she had like multiple gardens throughout the property, just like where the sons were. I knew like they kind of had like a low area. That's where the strawberry patch was. And then behind their garage is where all the huge rhubarb plants were. And so I remember picking those with her. And my parents actually have, they used to do like just cinder blocks with dirt, but now they've gotten all fancy and they have like raised beds and like beds on wheels that they can like move around in the yard depending.
Beds on wheels? What?
Yeah, my dad built it. I don't know. I think.
Is there a reason?
I think it has to do with shade or something. I know they're trying to, because I live in Wisconsin, like the growing season is a little shorter than what they would like, obviously, and they're trying to just get the most they can out of their yard, I guess. I'm not sure. But it's pretty
you'll have to ask him, like, what's with the wheels? Why not just pick a spot?
Yeah.
Oh shoot, I had a follow-up question and I kind of forgot. Dang it. Well, so on in the gardening, I'm assuming you like helped out like in your parents' garden, and what did they try that like worked well? Was there just like one crop that just like, was it always tomatoes or always corn or something always just came in fantastic every year and they never like that? If everything else failed, this one wouldn't.
Yeah. So we definitely always had lettuce. That would always come up. No matter how hard my mom tried to get me and my sister to eat kohlrabi, she would continually plant it every year, even though we told her we didn't like kohlrabi. And I still don't like it. It's like a vegetable. It's like yellow. It's kind of like the texture of a carrot almost. But it doesn't, to me, it doesn't taste good. And my mom always planted radishes and carrots. And that's what I remember eating growing up. That's what we had in our garden. We did have a pear tree, but it wasn't like pears you could eat.
How does that work? Do you just like make wine out of it or something?
No, they just said it came with the property when they bought it, so they just kind of left it there.
Not pears you could eat.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But my grandma would can a lot too, so we'd get like canned pears, canned peaches. But I never knew where she got those from because she didn't have like pears and peaches in her garden. So I have no idea where she got those from.
Do you do any canning in your apartment?
I do not. I don't have the supplies for it. The only canning I've actually done is jam. And I actually took a course. I took a fun course in my undergraduate. It was like a cooking class, 1 credit once a week. And we went and canned celery, carrots, pickles, things like that. So I've done it. I just don't really have the equipment to do it here.
Sure. That makes sense. That'd be kind of tough. I mean, unless you like really loved it or something.
Yeah.
How many, you said like the stuff, just the couple pots on your balcony that you had, how many salads would that provide you, let's say, a week?
Probably I don't eat a lot. I'm kind of small. So for my size, maybe like 2 or 3 a week. I was only growing like cherry tomatoes, so they're kind of smaller.
That makes sense.
But the plant, it was producing tomatoes from May all the way until I think like the end of September or October, like whenever the first frost was. Nice. It was going.
That's not bad. And 2 or 3 a week is still pretty good, I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my question, by the way. You why is it always rhubarb by the garage? It's like a Midwest thing. In like a couple of other like podcasts that I listen to, like half of them are like from the Midwest, and it's like rhubarb is like only like a Midwest thing. I'm surprised you don't grow rhubarb on your balcony.
It's a huge plant. I don't actually know if I could fit it in a pot, to be honest. Like the leaves that I remember picking were like at least a foot, if not longer.
Yeah, they're huge.
Yeah, and I think they're planted by the garage just because I think that plant needs shade. So, if you're planted by the garage, at some point it's going to be covered by shade. But yeah, rhubarb is definitely very popular in the Midwest. Like, if you haven't had a rhubarb pie and you lived here, like, what are you doing? That's like saying you haven't had a hot dish or a casserole.
That is very true. Very true. For anyone that hasn't had one, what does rhubarb taste like? Can you describe it?
It's bitter. Like you can't just bitter. You can't just take it straight up from the ground, dust it off and take a chunk out of it. Unless like you're very special and you love it. It usually has to be like rhubarb pie is made with sugar and it's very commonly paired with strawberry. Like it's a very good combination of bitter and sweet.
Yeah, it's I like how when making rhubarb pie, you have to work so hard to make it like it's basically just a filler. Like it's not there for the taste. I'm assuming because you have to just pour gobs of sugar in it and like all like the nice crumble on top of the pie and everything. And so I don't even know why they use it. It's just like this trash plant that people want pot.
It also has like a good texture and like, I mean, the color is nice when you pull it out of the ground. It's like a deep, rich red. So it's not like a disgusting color.
It is aesthetically pleasing, kind of like Swiss chard is.
Yeah.
So, so in your family gardens, what did they try that didn't work? We know the garden bed on wheels works. What doesn't work?
I do remember this one year, my mom's mom, she planted, I want to say it was carrots, and they weren't doing so well. And I distinctly remember this because my sister tried to like put a campaign together with all my cousins, like a campaign to save the carrots that year. And like to come out like on a weekend to see what we could do to help with the carrots. So I don't know if it was like specifically that year it didn't work, but yeah, the carrots, I think it's because you need, I don't know if you need a certain type of soil, or maybe my grandma, and it was towards like the end of her life. So I don't know if she hadn't like planted them, the seeds deep enough or things like that. I think that was definitely one of the last years that she had planted a garden.
Do you remember if she like used conventional like chemicals or whatever in her garden, or was it like, nope, none of that stuff touches my food?
I don't remember her using it. They did run a dairy farm, so I'm sure she used manure that they had. Nice. But I don't believe that she used any like pesticides or herbicides or anything.
Sure.
And then my dad's mom, they had chickens, so I think they used chicken litter.
Nice. That works pretty well. I use it myself. So, so in all those gardening years, what do you think the biggest challenge has been?
I think the challenge is one of the biggest ones, at least here, is to decide when to plant and what to plant, because at least in the upper Midwest, you could have snow up until like the second week of May. And you kind of have to anticipate planting mid-May or late May. And I think also kind of planning out and strategically deciding how much space you have and how much space your plants need. And then probably finding or deciding if you want to plant seeds or like buy a plant that's already been grown. I personally, just because I'm on a balcony, I bought the plants. Like I didn't actually plant the seeds. I had the plants, like they had already been grown and germinated. Whereas, yeah, just because, it kind of gives you a better chance of them, actually producing and not dying.
Right. Yeah. And if you're also like limited on time as well, like, you really got to baby those seedlings in order to make sure that they produce, they take off, transplant well, all those things. Seems just like doing it on hard mode. And if you already have a black thumb and don't have like the base skill of just keeping a established tomato plant alive, you're not going to do well from seed. It's just an added layer of difficulty, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what's the best part about gardening?
I think it's just like talking to it about people, and I feel like I've influenced a couple of like my friends to start their gardens on their balcony. Yeah. And my boyfriend is very impressed that I do it. he's the one that requested the herbs last year because he likes to make them with steak in our cast iron skillet. So he wanted
nice
rosemary and thyme. So I was
like this dude.
Yeah, I was like, well, it's going to be cheaper to plant them than to have to buy this every week. So, or every time we make steak. So,
and it's fresh.
Yeah, I know a couple of my friends. My one friend, he was like hardcore and planted seeds in like egg carton and had them growing inside before he moved them out. Like, I think he planted pepper, like 3 different types of peppers, tomatoes, and I was like, wow, okay, that's way better than me.
That's awesome that you inspired that, though, that you started your own little like gardening club.
Yeah.
You guys can like check in on each other, like, how's your stuff doing? Like, oh, I don't know, the leaves are kind of yellow. What do you think?
Yeah. And actually, Minneapolis provides like a lot of places to, grow your own food if you don't have access to like a balcony or something. I know a friend of mine like rents a square or a plot in like one of the suburbs. And there's plenty of places to buy plants too. The Minnesota Arboretum had this huge plant sale, which I should have gone to last weekend, but I didn't. But yeah, the tools are there. It's just you need to want to have the motivation to go there and get the supplies and find resources, which there are tons of resources, especially through like state extension programs have this program called Master Gardener, where it's literally people who just know a lot about gardening, and you can just give them a call and they love answering questions. I remember working with a guy like that, and he was just like this retired guy who would do this part-time, and he would just sit in an office for like maybe 12 hours a week, just like answering people's questions about gardens.
That'd be an awesome resource to have.
Yeah.
And somebody like that, you could probably talk to him about almost anything, even not gardening related. Just like, hey, I'm kind of struggling with this. What do you think? I don't know. Just kind of like just another person to bounce some ideas off of, or I don't know.
Yeah. Have that experience to tap into.
Yeah. And that, like the gardening and homesteading community, you find just a lot of people that are just willing to give their time and knowledge just freely, just like almost too much, if you know what I mean. Kind of like, look, I just asked, like, how do I start like this seed? And I got 3 hours worth of info, which I'm happy to have for sure. But now this is too much. Now I don't remember my original question or
I didn't write this down.
Yeah, I didn't write any of this down. Do you have a TED Talk I could listen to? So let's talk a little bit about what we were chatting about before the show. That you just wrapped up your master's program, right?
Yep, I graduated. So I technically graduated August 2020. I defended my thesis like April 2020. It was kind of like when COVID first started, and usually when you defend your master's thesis or your PhD or something, it'll be, a big thing in person at your university. But I had to like do it over Zoom. I was actually in Wisconsin at the time, and I got my master's in South Carolina. So I kind of had to coordinate with everyone down there. And it actually got postponed probably 2 or 3 times. I think they had tornadoes down there, so they had lost electricity. And then there might have been, no, it wasn't hurricane season, but yeah, they had a bunch of storms. So it got postponed a couple times, but yeah. So yeah, I've had it for about 2 years now.
So let's see, you did your master's in South Carolina and you did your undergrad in Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
So then did you just stay in Minneapolis for your master's?
No. So I was in South Carolina, like I lived down there during my master's. So I had finished up kind of my lab work and everything I had to do in person in South Carolina. And then I decided to, since I only had my thesis to write, I was allowed to kind of go home and live with my parents, not be distracted by like all the things in college, just so I could like focus, finish your thesis. I think that's kind of the hardest part about grad school. I think most people would agree with me, is just to like focus and like, analyze your data, get your references together, and get this approved by your committee. And it takes like a lot of work to do that. And usually if you're in grad school, you have people asking you for help, at least in my department, I really need help with data collection, or can you help lambing this season? And I'm like, no, I have to write this thesis. So it was nice to be able to go and write my thesis with my in Wisconsin at my parents.
So then how'd you end up in Minneapolis then? Remind me.
Yeah, I got a job up here after I graduated. So moved back here because I was familiar with it, and
sure,
it was a good place to move to.
So then, sorry, I know I'm stuck on like semantics. I'm just trying to get my timeline in order. When did you get to Minneapolis?
So I was here for my undergraduate degree, like 2012 through 2016. And then I moved here for my job, like June 2020.
Okay. That was a wild time to move to Minneapolis.
Yeah, I was, actually that was like after the George Floyd thing happened. That was probably, I visited like a week after to look at apartments. And, yeah, it's way different than, when I was here in 2016 and through undergrad. It's just, things are different, and that's just how it goes sometimes.
I suppose that's just kind of wild. An event like that would probably keep a lot of people away. We're just like, as long as I got my tomatoes.
Yeah. There's been it's just been very interesting living here. There were curfews, we had to go through, and lots of lockdowns, and with COVID and everything, and traffic is just not what I remember. But I didn't have to leave campus, so I didn't even know that existed when I was going to school here for my undergrad.
Sure. So let's talk about moving forward. So you're currently looking for a new job.
Mm-hmm.
And can you go over your options again? What kind of, so what's your degree, and what's the job you're looking for?
Yeah, so I have an undergrad degree in animal science. At Minnesota, you can pick an emphasis. I had an emphasis in beef and dairy production. And then my master's degree is in animal and veterinary sciences. And then my research looked at animal nutrition, fiber digestibility in crops, things like that. And I had a research position for a couple of years, and I've kind of been influenced by the recent popularity of data analytics. And so I'm trying to look for a data analyst position within the agriculture industry. So it's pretty niche.
It is very niche. And you said like South Dakota and Wisconsin have pretty good like job availability in those fields, like data analyst for agriculture.
Yeah, so I've found positions. Wisconsin is kind of a big hub for dairy cattle genetics, and as you can imagine, there's a lot of data that goes into dairy cattle genetics. So they have data analysts there. And then there's also a company out in South Dakota that does a lot with measuring greenhouse gas emissions. So they are constantly getting in data a lot from their machines and everything. So they also have a data analyst position open as well.
That's interesting. Are you stuck with those two states or those two companies, or are you trying to like stay kind of close to home, like within 1,000 miles or something?
Yeah, so there are a lot of positions, I will say, out in California, but that's really not somewhere I could see myself living. I've been there. I went to LA for the first time last year. My dad actually lived in LA. He was he lived there during the 80s, so it was way different than last year was actually the first time that he's been back since he moved, and he's like, this is not the same as when I lived here.
So like double the population.
Yes. Yeah, it was it was kind of amazing to see and his reactions to just the changes in LA and everything. So there's a lot of positions out in California and definitely on the East Coast, but I've visited both coasts, and it's just not the culture, the company of people I would want to be in.
Sure.
I'm kind of looking to move to smaller city, less traffic, just kind of like starting to slow down in my life.
You're looking to slow down in your 20s?
I mean, I'm going to be 30 in a couple of years, so.
Sure. Yeah. I guess it's something it just sounds funny to me because, I don't know. It's just different. It's just unusual, but for the better. It's just kind of something you don't hear somebody in their 20s say is all. That's all. So let's talk about what kind of challenges do you have being away from friends and family?
Oh, so there's a lot of challenges, and I've lived far away from my family a lot. Just going to undergrad in Minnesota, I was about 5 to 6 hour car ride away. Living in South Carolina is 12 hours to drive back. So I did miss a lot. I have a sister, so I didn't get to see her as much. Family is a very big part of my life. I have 30 plus cousins, grandparents, things like that. Yeah. And, that's really hard because I don't get to see them as often as I would like to, but they love calling me. My grandma calls me a lot. And my grandpa will only receive letters if they're written in cursive. So I write him a lot in cursive. And my parents like to take advantage and visit me and use that as their vacation. But they would do anything for me to be able to visit them on holidays. It was a little difficult. I have a dog, and I just got him while I was in South Carolina in graduate school. And so I'm like, well, there goes, taking planes home. I guess I should be prepared to drive 12 hours home with the dog. And luckily in graduate school, depending on your advisor and your program, you're pretty flexible with how much time you can take off if you're not taking too many classes or TAing. So that was pretty easy to work with at that time. But when you get into a job, you only have so many limited vacation days. And I've actually been very fortunate that I have been able to be with my family for most holidays and see my sister a lot. She could have moved up to Minneapolis with me, but she decided to move down to Kentucky. So that kind of stung a little bit. But yeah, we would go through very big lengths to see each other. And as for friends, it's just natural to grow apart from friends. And people who I've grown apart with the last years, I'm not bitter towards anyone, or I don't hold a grudge oh, you didn't say happy birthday to me or something like that. It's not it's life goes on and life happens. But, you know, the people who will make time to come see you are the people that, you know, you'll make the effort for. For example, tomorrow, someone I went to high school with is going to be in the city, so I'm meeting him for lunch, and he lives in Alabama, so it'll be really nice to see him.
That's pretty cool. You sound pretty close to your family overall.
Yeah. I actually can name all my cousins, all 30 of them, but I could not name all their kids.
Okay, that was my next question. Like, okay, cousins, sure. I'm kind of in the same boat. I got like 40, 50 cousins or something. I don't know. And I know like the first couples, like in order of age, I know like probably half of their kids, and then after that, I don't remember.
Yeah, 3 of my cousins are having kids this year, and I'm like, didn't you just have kids last year?
Right. But just assume they're all pregnant all the time.
Yeah.
Always having kids.
Yeah, but it's not a bad thing. Like every time I hear someone's having a child, I'm like, this is great. This is wonderful. And it just makes our family get-togethers even bigger. My mom's side is the one with all my 30 cousins. So we all meet together like Christmas every day or every year. We try to. My cousins mostly live in Wisconsin. I think there's a few scattered across the country. And I had a cousin living in Costa Rica for a while, but she actually just moved back after like 15, 20 years. So she moved back to Wisconsin just this past year with her family.
What brought her back after all this time?
So she moved down there in like 2002, and she moved down there originally to teach Spanish and English. She's like fluent in both. She obviously met her husband down there, and they got married, and they have 2 girls. And I think they were down there to stay there because he was so close with his family. But I think just with like recent events and everything, that they've kind of grown apart from their friends down there. And I don't know if their family situation with her husband has been all that well. So I think she has really close ties with her mom, my aunt. They actually have a huge family. I think my aunt has 8 kids, so they're very closely knit. That's probably like the biggest family out of all my aunts. And they all, I think, live within like an hour radius of each other. So they are always watching each other's kids. And I think they were really wanting that support. Sure.
They're going to need it. I mean, like, just the times that we're facing soon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I've got a note here about you want to promote some local mentorship programs. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. So I'm involved with, I went to the University of Minnesota, and they have a mentorship program there for their students, undergraduates, graduate students, PhDs, postdocs. And I did it as an undergrad, and I just did it for fun. I was like, well, we'll see what happens. And it really helped me just because they don't teach you everything in college. Like, they don't know what the real world is. And I have done it the second year doing it. I did it this year. And the girl that I mentored last year, she actually got into vet school. So I kind of like to think that I had helped her with that. And this other girl, this current one that I have, we've actually been continuing our mentorship. The program technically ended like April, but we still continue to, talk about things, meet up. She's actually not going the route that she had originally wanted to do when we first started. So she's going into not physician's assistant. That's what she wants to do. And of course I have no idea. Like that's not what I do. But kind of just telling her things that I've done and experienced has really helped her, especially with like interview process. I'm like, okay, so this is what interviews look like now for me and something you can expect. And I've helped her, with resumes. She has a lot of, I feel like it's very common for people now, especially younger people, that have anxiety and like depression and confidence issues. And so I kind of help her work through that. She really wanted to get this TA position, I think a physiology class, and she was nervous to ask this professor. And she's like, I've emailed her once. She hasn't responded. I'm like, I'm going to tell you this. Professors don't respond on the first email. Keep emailing her. You're not annoying. And it turns out, yeah, she emailed her like 2 or 3 more times. And of course, the professor emailed and she got that TA position, I think, not only for this past semester, but she has it for the next upcoming semester as well.
Nice. That sounds awesome that you're so supportive of other people that way. When you said mentorship programs, I was just thinking like food, like gardening, but so it's just general mentorship, you know, get that job you wanted, get that TA position that they wanted. That's cool.
Yeah. I think it's something that's maybe not talked about enough. And it's important to have a mentor, you know, maybe like working on your career, and then also maybe a personal mentor as well. Because I just think experience is such a valuable thing, and you can maybe skip some mistakes that you might be making by just talking it over with someone with more experience than you.
Connections too.
Oh my gosh, the agriculture world is like all about networking and connections. Everyone knows everyone. It's such a small community.
Oh yeah. Did you say that you had a mentor as well?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I think my sophomore year is when I did it. Mm-hmm.
Nice. So they helped you through like some of like your school programs, I'm assuming?
Not so much. I think what I really got out of that program was, at the time, it was something that I thought I wanted to do. So she was an extension agent for the state of Minnesota on like livestock, and that's a career path that I wasn't sure if I wanted to pursue. And after kind of learning what she did, pre-COVID, you could go and shadow. Unfortunately, my mentees weren't able to shadow me these past couple of years. So I got to kind of see like what they do day to day. And I feel like, I don't know if it's like this with all colleges, but I think there's a lack of like career help, at least that I've experienced at Minnesota. I spent a semester at University of Kentucky too. They didn't really have the support that I was looking for, and same down in South.
Oh, sorry, I just lost you for a second, but you're back.
Yeah.
You said that Kentucky didn't have career support.
Yeah, I had spent a semester there for like a exchange program, and then in South Carolina, like the career services that they had I felt were kind of limiting.
What is it about livestock that you want to pursue as a career? I'm just genuinely curious. Like,
I think it's kind of the pride I have just being from Wisconsin, and my grandparents being dairy farmers. I think dairy holds a very special place in my heart. I love dairy. I always have milk, always have cheese, always have yogurt, always have ice cream. It's like, I think it's the best thing. It provides, protein, energy, and it's just kind of the lifestyle that you think about is kind of, it's almost like, I don't know how to say it, but it's like a dream, even though working on a dairy farm is not a dream. You have to milk cows like 2 or 3 times a day every day, but it's like just a goal that I want to work for. And I think it's a very idealistic lifestyle. I personally wouldn't do a dairy farm. Like, my goal would be to do like a homestead and have beef cattle instead. So you can leave. Like you personally raise, like you would personally raise beef cattle is that what you're saying? Yeah.
in the future.
Yeah, but probably not more than like two or four steers or something low key.
I gotcha. It sounds very wholesome.
Yeah.
Like, there's a pun in there if anyone caught it. So do you drink raw milk, or have you?
Yes. I did growing up a lot. Cause that's what my grandparents drank. They didn't pasteurize it or anything. I didn't have a problem drinking it until I was like in high school. Then I was having a lot of stomach issues whenever I would like drink it, but it's because I would drink a lot of it. I would have like 4 or 5 glasses, and now I can only have like a glass of raw milk. Yeah, I wish I could drink more, but yeah, it does give me some stomach issues.
That's not. Wonder what happened there. Like what the change was, because maybe it's just like I don't know. I have no idea what could be the issue there, and something that changed. That all of a sudden your stomach just didn't like it anymore, or as much.
Your body goes through some weird changes in high school.
That's true. That is true. With all that drinking of milk, have you ever broken a bone?
No.
Well, there you go. So studying dairy and beef cattle, so what I know you said, like, it doesn't sound that nice working on a dairy farm or with cattle or whatever. But if you're a data analyst, you don't actually have to do any of the hard work. Probably you're just like someone that actually milked the cow. They hand you the bucket or container, and you like measure how much it produced, I'm assuming. And so, or the machine did it, I guess. Or do you actually have to hook up like the milking machine or anything?
So like usually for data analytics, it's collected like on a cloud service. And a lot of the data collected from dairy farms are usually, if it's going to be like looking at milk content and milking, typically it'll be from robots, farms that have robotic dairies, because it's very easy to collect data that way. Otherwise, you can do the old-fashioned way. DHIA can come in and do some records for you on your milk components and things like that. Other records on a dairy farm are usually manually put in by people working on the farm, or vets if there's any health issues going on.
I suppose that makes sense. So if it's all automatic, robotically, like that's just part of the process. Like the machine already knows how much milk has been like dumped and which cow it came from and all those things. Like it's just all part of their system, and it's put in like a big spreadsheet, I guess. And then you have to comb over it. I don't know. Spreadsheets and numbers and data, not really my thing. So yeah, it would be lost on me.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming, especially if you're working with large herds of like 100, 200 cattle. If they milk 2 or 3 times a day, and they're recording everything up to how many pounds of milk each cow is producing, percent fat, percent protein. Sometimes they'll have scales to weigh the cows, because that can indicate if they're going through some type of metabolic disease, things like that.
So then, if all that data would be put in, like for dairy cows, and you said that you preferred to do beef instead, so then what kind of data would they be looking for? The fat lean ratio on like, let's say the hay to alfalfa. I don't know. Help me out here. Like the conversion ratio maybe from like hay and alfalfa to pounds on like hanging weight, and then like in, let's say, a specific cut is like this percentage of fat to lean. Is that, am I close?
So I would say the biggest thing that's recorded on a feedlot would probably be average daily gain, how many pounds they're gaining per day.
Okay.
And then probably comparing it to feed costs and how much your feed is costing to pay to feed the cows like per day. Usually it's going to cost me this many cents per day to feed each cow. How long is this steer going to be in the feedlot? When is it going to be ready to hit, finish weight? I'm not sure if like hot carcass weight, all that kind of the measurements you get after you butcher the steer, I think that would be like a separate industry because usually, the feedlot's not kind of integrated with that.
Sure.
It's not an integrated industry. So those would probably be, and I'm guessing, they would probably look at greenhouse gas emissions too in feedlots because I know that's a big thing as well.
Yeah.
And they would definitely be comparing, especially with like pricing and the way that crop prices are fluctuating every day and things like that. They're looking at the price of substituting. I think I've heard that lysine has been a little bit of a concern. It's an essential amino acid that cattle need in order for the ruminant to work well and do its thing. And then, corn prices, of course, are a big thing. And then, especially if you're doing like more of a niche market, if you're doing whatever you claim grass-fed, 100% grass-fed pasture-raised, whatever beef, how much that's going to cost you to plant like your pastures and things like that. And like I said, substituting, especially if you're in the Southeast, like if you want to substitute sorghum for corn, because that's a good substitute.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Do you subscribe to like regenerative agriculture models to, instead of feeding cows like corn and soybeans or whatever, to put them out on pasture instead and like rotationally like graze them? Are you familiar with this process?
I'm familiar with like the different systems that you can finish beef on.
Do you think that that's a more sustainable way to go?
Depends on what type of sustainability you're thinking about, environmentally or socially or economically sustainable. I do know that if a cow has a higher grass-based diet, it's going to be producing more greenhouse gases than if it's on a grain-finished diet. Also,
I've not heard that.
Yeah, there's I took like a sustainability class in graduate school, and we had to do a whole lit review on it. Forgot the exact papers, but it's just the way that the grass is broken down in the rumen and the outputs that are produced from the digestion. And then obviously they're not going to gain as much weight as fast on pasture raised or pasture finished. So how much is that going to cost you per day that you're not finishing your cattle fast enough? How far away are you going to be shipping your cattle from a pasture versus like a feedlot? Because they're going to be on the truck and it uses gas. There's so many like components and like it's so hard to that's a loaded question.
It is a loaded question and it's totally not fair. I apologize.
It's all right.
And I did not prep you for this question at all. It was just like something that I thought of. So
yeah, I get asked it a lot, so it's no problem.
Do you have a preference personally, like eating grass-fed or conventionally fed beef?
So I actually took like a carcass evaluation class in my undergraduate. And we tasted prime, choice beef, grass-fed beef, goat, camel, weird meats like that. And
what? Any horse?
No,
Dang.
the only reason we got camel meat was because, my professor was like, found this camel meat at, I forgot what type of store he was at, but he had just been like driving by and he's like, oh, I'm going to bring this to class. But going back to, I actually prefer like conventionally fed, grass or conventionally fed finished beef, like on grain. I think it tastes better. There's more fat there. Grass fed just didn't taste as good to me. The beef I usually get is actually from my grandparents' farm.
Sure.
They'll finish off steers, and then my parents will usually buy half of a steer, and then they'll give some ground beef to me and my sister.
That's nice. It's expensive, so that's nice.
Yeah.
I have heard that a lot. That, I just like the taste of grain finished. Is it like, are you saying grain finished or like grain its whole life? So just grain fed. Because raised on pasture and then you bulk it up towards the end with grain.
Yeah. So typically, like, I think that's the most common is like the cows and the steers, all the cattle that get transferred to like feedlots are usually on pasture first, because you're not gonna like calve in a feedlot. Like that's just, they don't have the facilities for that, and that's not smart.
I will say that my wife likes grass fed bison more than just regular, like any ground beef we've had, whether it be conventional or grass-fed beef. The grass-fed bison by us is just her number one choice. She's like, this is so good. So if you ever get a chance to try some, you should.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
I was just asked the other day, like, if I ended up moving out to South Dakota and like, in the future, if you buy land in South Dakota, would you ever like raise bison? And I'm just like, so like I'm about 110 pounds, like I'm okay handling cows. They're only like 1,200 pounds. Like, do you know how big bison are? And like they have
What's
horns.
Another 1,000 pounds? What's the difference? You're gonna get run over and killed anyways.
Yeah, I think I think I told them, I would need some experience, handling the livestock first. And I don't know about you, but like I feel more comfortable handling like cows and sheep and goats rather than like horses scare me. They're so unpredictable and they can actually bite you. So I'm a little nervous handling horses.
I think they pick up on that nervousness. I think that's what your problem is.
Yeah, probably.
It's more like sheep, goats. Definitely not pigs. Pigs do whatever they want. Because like you can, for the most part, kind of control sheep and goats physically if you have to. Every other animal is just kind of do what they want, unless you really really strong arm them or just kind of encourage them to do what you want with lots of treats or something. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. If you get run over by a cow, it can't feel much different than getting run over by a bison, but bison don't really seem to respect boundaries is what I'm so there's actually, just really quick, there's in a town south of me, like it's a small town, maybe 500 people live in it or something like that. In town, like 2 blocks off of Main Street, which is just a 4-way stop.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bison. I don't know if it's still there. It lives in this person's backyard, and it's like quarter lot. Not even kidding. I wonder if there's a newspaper article in the local paper that's ever been written about the lone bison in someone's backyard.
That would be a lot to feed it if it's not like grazing, because that's not enough.
I mean, even if it was, I mean, they're also, they roam, buffalo roam, there's kind of like elk. Like elk don't stay in one spot. Like they migrate, because they eat. I think I saw something like 15 pounds a day of stuff each, and there's like herds of 200, 500, 1,000 elk. So like you do the math and how much they have to keep moving in order so that everybody gets fed and stuff. But anyways, enough of that tangent. Wrapping up, what would you tell people that want to get started? Gardening, homesteading, raising bison?
I think, work with what you have. If you're in an apartment, buy some pots, buy some soil. If you have questions, there's so many resources online. Reach out to friends if you hear them gardening. Keep an eye on some land prices, I guess. Find a nice elderly couple that owns land that they don't know what to do with. And I think just kind of being realistic with your goals as well. You don't have to start off, like I said, I only started off with 2 plants. My first year I was here, and then I decided to double it. It's okay. It's okay to neglect them. Obviously they'll come back if they want to. And I think the important thing is to not take it too seriously, especially if it's, it's not your income. It's not like you're depending on this for money and things like that. And I think it also would help you give you a sense of pride. Like you grew it, and, you don't have to depend on the grocery store or wherever you're getting your food from. You can just go out your balcony and, pick some tomatoes and lettuce, or I'm hoping to get strawberries soon, or raspberries, because I buy those all the time at the grocery store.
Yeah, same. Well, awesome. Do you want to tell people where they can find you, follow you, see what you're doing?
Sure. I'm on Twitter. I don't post a lot. I'm not very consistent. I do have an Instagram. I'm not consistent there as well. And I'm on Facebook and not consistent as well either. I just, it's actually something I'm trying to get away from. I am a little bit addicted to social media, so I don't have a TikTok because I was like, nope, you're going to get drawn in. Like, don't do it. Do not waste your time on that.
There's so much good ranching stuff and cow stuff on there, though.
I know, but like, there's also the real world outside. Like on Twitter, I think ever the post is like, go touch grass or something like that.
Go touch grass.
Yeah. So, there's other accounts that you can follow that definitely keep up with what they're doing more than I do. So I think I just, prove that anyone, even someone in an apartment, can grow their own food. Like you can even grow it inside if you want. Like I know I actually just bought a friend of ours a grow lamp so they could grow herbs all year round in Minnesota.
Nice.
So if you really want it, you can make it happen.
That's perfect. Well, I appreciate tonight spending your time talking to me, answering my dumb questions that about data analysis that I still don't really understand, but that's okay. And yeah, good luck going forward, and hope we stay in touch.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I loved this interview. Madi is a perfect example of what you can do with the space you have. So what's your excuse to not start? Thanks for watching, everyone. Please like, subscribe, and most importantly, share this video. Check out our website, farmhoplife.com. Sign up for our email list there to be notified when new videos, interviews, and podcasts are available. If you can be censored for saying something, couldn't you also be censored for not saying something? Ever think about that? So let's stay in touch. On our YouTube, I have playlists organized so you can watch super short podcast episodes with Katie and I, interviews, short clips with guests, and videos of our setup here at home. You can email me anytime, matt@farmhoplife.com. I'm always looking for new people to interview. Don't be scared. If you want to come on to talk about homesteading, farming, food security, homeschooling, regenerative agriculture, alternative building methods, or anything else, pitch me an idea. farmhoplife.com/guest. Go feed yourself.